Discover Sinister Camping Tales. 7 spine-chilling stories that revealed haunted secrets. Jenna gripped the steering wheel tighter as they left the flickering city lights behind. Her laughter was forced, echoing off the cramped car walls. Simon, what's the worst that could happen? Max's nervous chuckle was swallowed by the growing anxiety in his gut. The old factory worker, still reeling from layoffs, shifted in his seat, eyes darting to the shadows of derelict buildings looming like watchers. You guys really believe in all those creepy stories? He muttered, trying to sound confident. Sarah, yearning for genuine laughs despite her unease, brushed off Max's worries. It's just a camping trip. We need to unwind. But the towering trees, thick and ancient, whispered a different tale as they rolled deeper into the woods. Once they pitched their tents, the quiet of the night settled uncomfortably around them. The fire crackled, casting flickering shadows that danced like specters. Laughter, once bright, dulled as Jenna began recounting tales of campers who mysteriously vanished without a trace. Her heart raced, even as she feigned nonchalance. And they say she leaned closer, voice low. You can still hear their laughter if you listen closely. That S when an unsettling rustle echoed through the trees, sending chills racing up Max's spine. Then, a distant laugh, a child's laugh, bubbled and reverberated, twisting the warm air cold. Unease tightened their throats. Just the wind, David said too quickly, but a thick dread crept in. Faces turned pale. The weight of old legends filled the air heavier than the smoke from their fire. They began to notice strange symbols scratched into tree bark around them. What the hell are these? Sarah asked, her voice trembling. Looks like we've stumbled into something. Each symbol, sharp and jagged, felt like a warning, as if they had intruded upon sacred ground. The tightness in their chests was impossible to ignore. As twilight deepened, the outside world faded like a dream. Cell signals dropped. The deep woods enclosed around them. Laughter turned to nervous glances. Paranoia settled in. David, usually the easygoing one, began to act erratic, his eyes darting nervously. Something was wrong. He wasn't just scared. He was hiding something. Before we continue, Jenna started, her voice rising as they tried to laugh through the tension. I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as they thought they could shake it off, the laughter, clearer and closer, bubbled up again, and dread clawed at their insides. Between the trees, the twisted remains of a campsite called to them, revealing remnants of something tragic. Each clue hinted they weren't simply lost. They were hunted. David's whispers revealed his inner demon's anxiety twisted with guilt, fracturing whatever bond they had left. That night, under a curtain of darkness, they heard it again, the oppressive whispering, a voice that seemed to draw them in deeper. Jenna's heart raced. They had disturbed something old and sinuous, something that didn't welcome intruders. As dawn approached, Jenna's breath hitched when she noticed fresh symbols etched on the soil where they had camped. They were not alone. Combating an unseen threat, she felt a sinister presence inch closer, hungry for stories to add to its horrific legends. Would they escape? Or would they become the next haunted tale whispered around the flickering glow of another campfire? Morning light crept slowly through the trees, filtering down like ghostly fingers on their campsite. Jenna's heart pounded. The symbols twisted in her mind like a dreadful riddle. She could feel the air grow thicker, something pungent, a scent of decay mingling with pine. Throughout the early hours of dawn, they stood awkwardly, each one avoiding the weight of what lingered in the air. Did anyone else hear the laughter? Max finally broke the incredulous silence, his voice shaking, as if afraid of the answer. The others exchanged uneasy glances. David rubbed his temples, clearly haunted by the night's events. I don't want to talk about it, David whispered, his gaze fixated on a crooked tree in the distance, one that seemed to lean closer with every passing moment. They started packing up, hands moving quickly as they kept their eyes on the surrounding woods. Each snap of a twig felt like a warning. Each rustle in the brush ignited a surge of sheer panic. "Let us just get out of here," Sarah urged, stuffing her belongings hastily into her backpack. Each motion seemed frantic, desperate. But Jenna lingered, scanning the area around her. The symbols carved into the ground began to twist and shift in her mind, like a bizarre language begging to be understood. No one else seemed bothered by the significance of the unmarked graves nearby, but something gnawed at her gut. What if we're missing something? She murmured, thoughts racing. "What do you mean?" Max asked sharply, his brow furrowed. "What if this place? What if it needs something from us?" "No, we need to leave now," he said, his anxiety erupting. Suddenly, the child-south laughter echoed again close. So unnaturally lifelike, it curdled in their ears. That joyous sound twisted by something sinister. "Can't be," Sarah whispered, voice trembling. Jenna felt ice coursing through her veins. "We have to stick together. If we don't," before she could finish her thought, David suddenly dashed into the dense thicket, a wild look in his eyes. "I can't stay here." His footsteps thudded loudly, echoing their shared dread. "David, wait!" Max yelled, slinging his backpack over his shoulder and sprinting after him. "Guys!" Sarah screamed, panic laced in her voice. "What about the symbols?" A low growl emanated from the trees, vibrating the air. A warning. Jenna knew they were crossing a line. This place demanded respect, a sacrifice. Unearthed terror pulled at her, threatening to consume her from the inside out. She followed, heart racing, the forest swirling. The laughter continued, an echo that could drive anyone mad. Her footsteps faltered as she stumbled on a patch of dry dirt, revealing fresh symbols. No longer jagged. They now appeared slick as though painted with blood. "Over here," David's voice called, blending with the disembodied laughter that seemed to mock their terror. Jenna raced forward, fear driving her. Max and David reached a clearing, breathless and staring wide-eyed at a gnarled tree, roots clawing outward like desperate hands. Someone was caught within its grasp. The sight clenched Jenna's stomach and twisted her insides. Had they stumbled into a nightmarish shrine? "Get back!" she screamed, but it was too late. The ground trembled under the weight of something unseen, something hungry that awoke from its slumber. Shadows shifted, flickering in and out of focus, closing in around them. Suddenly, darkness throbbed, and the laughing grew, joining an unholy symphony. What had they awakened? As they backed away, Jenna glimpsed a pale hand clawing from the dirt, reaching for freedom, reaching for them. It was no longer just a story. They were entwined in a narrative darker than they could ever have imagined. "Run!" she screamed, heart hammering like thunder, but it felt like too late. What would happen when they crossed the final line? In the chaos, the shadows deepened, swallowing the light whole. Would they escape, or would they find out what awaited those whose stories ended here? Jenna's scream echoed through the clearing, swallowed almost immediately by the cacophony of disembodied laughter and the rumble of the restless earth. Max and David froze for only a heartbeat before turning to flee, limbs pumping as adrenaline surged. Jenna followed, a whirlwind of terror propelling her forward, but the haunting echoes pressed closer, suffocating their escape. "Where do we go?" Max shouted, glancing back at the growing shadows. "It's everywhere." David's face was a mask of panic, eyes darting. "The path. We have to find the path." But the woods were alive now, tendrils of darkness twisting the way ahead, branches snapping like brittle bones as they attempted to aid in their flight. "Stay together," Jenna cried, her voice cutting through the rising hysteria. "Don't look back." Against the primal instinct to flee blindly, they pressed forward, their footsteps a chaotic symphony against the muffled threats creeping around them. The child's laughter morphed into a high-pitched shriek, reverberating off ancient trunks, drowning Jenna's thoughts in dread. Jenna was hyper-aware, each rustle of the underbrush slithering its way under her skin. The air felt alive, electric, tinged with malice. It tugged at her, an insistent whisper urging her to acknowledge what was truly at stake. "Why are we running?" she gasped, suddenly overcome with a sense of urgency. "We can't just leave. What if it needs no? We don't have time for that." Max shot back, breathless and fraying with fear. "You think it needs another sacrifice?" David skidded to a halt. "Wait, what if you're right?" His voice trembled as he grappled with the implications. "We can't just leave something behind, right? It might do worse to us if we don't." Jenna felt something twist in her gut. The idea was ridiculous yet tantalizing. The ancient symbols burned in her mind like a twisted riddle. "If it needs something, we should find out. We can't just—" "Did you see that?" Max interrupted, pointing as his voice wavered. Shadows flickered among the trees, shapes that twisted too unnaturally to be born of light. The group huddled closer, panting heavily, heartbeats drowning out all other sounds. David's eyes widened. "What if the stories are true? You know, the ones about sacrifices?" "You're not serious," Jenna said, a shiver sliding through her. "Better to understand it than run from it," David replied, resolute. "What if this place is a sudden gust of wind howled through the trees, drowning out their fears?" The shrill laughter, chaotic and jarring, bore down on them like a storm of chaos and despair. The shadows danced, twisting with the breeze, and Jenna felt the pressure of the unseen swell around them, as if they were trapped in a tightening noose. "Okay," Jenna yelled over the noise, her voice barely carrying through the tempest. Let us find a way to." But before she could finish, the ground beneath them cracked, jagged fissures appearing like gaping mouths. Jenna scrambled back, her thoughts racing. "We can't stay here." "Then what's your plan?" Max shouted, despair creeping in. Straining her gaze ahead, another shadow seemed to pull from the depths, a change in the atmosphere. Dark tendrils wove between the trees, and in the midst of it, Jenna could swear she saw brief flashes of faces contorted in agony, flickering like candle flames. Their mouths moved, but Jenna couldn't hear their words. We have to choose," she stammered, understanding prickling at her edges. But the urgency of the moment pressed against her, demanding a choice, a path. "Let us draw the symbols," David yelled. "What if we can appease it?" "Are you insane?" Max's eyes bore into him. "You think that'll work?" The ground shook again, a deep growl reverberating from below. They had to decide, and fast. "Now!" Jenna shouted, fists tight around hope, fear of the unknown mingling within her. As they hesitated, shadows reared up and a chilling silence enveloped them, a deep inhale before the storm. What awaited them beneath the skin of the forest? Jenna could feel the heartbeat of the earth quickening, echoing the dread swelling around them. Would they find what they were looking for, or would they plunge deeper into the abyss? The shadows are thick now, swirling like a never-ending storm. Max, Jenna, and David huddled together, eyes wide as they scanned their dark surroundings. The air felt heavy, pressing down on them like lead. "Draw the symbols," David urged again, his voice trembling. "We have no other choice. What if we make it worse?" Max rasped, his breath ragged. The ground shivered beneath them, responding to their fear like a living thing. Jenna felt the dread pooling in her stomach. "We have to take the chance," she whispered, the words barely escaping her lips. What if it's the only way to stop it?" Max shook his head violently, glancing back. "I don't want to die here. This place is cursed." The laughter came again, piercing through the fear like shards of glass. It echoed in their minds, a mocking reminder that whatever was hunting them was enjoying their terror. "What if it is a trap?" Max added, desperation edging his tone. But even he knew the answer. They were already trapped in this nightmare of endless woods and whispering shadows. "We need to find a clearing," David suggested, the thought rushing into his mind. "Maybe there's something out there, something we can use against it." His eyes darted back toward the flickering darkness. "Then let us move," Jenna said, her heart pounding. Keeping together, they pushed toward the distant glow that flickered like a candle through the shroud of trees. As they ran, The shadows twisted closer, wrapping their way around branches like a serpent. Jenna felt them at her back, stalking, taunting. Each footfall sounded like thunder against the oppressive silence, and she fought to breathe normally, each inhale strained and tight. "Keep going," Jenna urged, squeezing Max's hand tightly. But suddenly, the laughter transformed into something else, an unearthly wail, trembling through the ground beneath them. Shadows leapt from trees all around, clawing at the air, reaching for flesh, for life. Then, the ground erupted in a violent tremor. Jenna stumbled as everything around her began to shake and shudder violently, branches snapping and the soil breaking beneath their feet. A tree crashed down nearby, sending up a cloud of dirt and debris. "No!" Max shouted as he lost his grip on Jenna and fell hard to the ground. "Max!" she screamed, spinning back. The shadows licked around him, writhing malevolently as he struggled to regain his footing. "Get out of here," he yelled, his voice strained against the chaos. "Go! Don't be insane," David shouted. "We can't leave him." Jenna felt torn, terrified of what was happening to Max but unable to lose more precious moments. "I'll come back," Max insisted, the wildness in his eyes breaking her heart. In that moment, Jenna's heart shattered under the weight of choice: leave him or risk everything. The shadows moved in, coiling tighter around him. Jenna hesitated, the decision slicing through her like cold steel. Her feet moved of their own accord. "We have to draw the symbols now. Hurry," she urged David. "Jenna, no." Max's voice cut through the clamor. She felt the ground tremble again, more violently this time, a palpable threat. But as she frantically scratched at the earth, her fingers trembling with fear, she caught sight of something beneath the soil, a faint shimmer, a glint of metal tangled in roots. Jenna's breath quickened. What was it? "Jenna, move!" Max screamed again. Shadows hovered closer, a rippling darkness intent on claiming its prey. But she couldn't look away. The glint of what lay beneath beckoned, and a strange familiarity washed over her, a connection, perhaps a key to their salvation or their demise. "What is it?" David asked, peering down as she unearthed a small, ornate box. "I don't know," Jenna panted, adrenaline surging. "But we need to see." As she opened the box, a pale light burst forth, illuminating the entire clearing. The wails of the shadows turned to a haunting shriek, drowning out everything else. Suddenly, the world fell silent. What had they awakened? With dread pooling in the pit of her stomach, Jenna knew it was only a matter of time before they found out. Would it save them or give birth to a terror they couldn't control? "Jenna, we have to go," Max called, his voice pushing her back to reality. But all she could do was stare into the abyss, her heart racing with a truth that was yet to be revealed. What lay inside the box? She had opened a door, and now they had to step through. Light poured from the box in a soft glow that felt almost soothing, sending delicate tendrils into the darkness. Jenna squinted against the brightness, her heart pounding in her chest as shadows writhed around her. Max's frantic voice faded into a blurry echo, drowning in the warm radiance that contrasted sharply with the cold, threatening night. "What is happening?" David whispered, his eyes darting between the box and the encroaching darkness. The shadows hesitated, as if unsure of their next move. The light from the box flickered, pulsing like a heartbeat. Jenna felt an undeniable pull toward it, a strange fascination surging through her veins. Her fingers tingled as she reached deeper into the box, hoping against hope that within lay the salvation they desperately sought. An image blurred into focus in her mind, a face and a whisper, echoing from an ancient time. "You have summoned me," it said. The voice chilled her to the bone. She was no longer sure if it was a voice from her memory or something far more sinister. The shadows began to quiver uneasily, inching backward, as if wary of the power awakening before them. "Keep it open," David urged, his heart racing. Jenna hesitated, adrenaline and fear battling within her. "Maybe it's a weapon or a shield." She met David's gaze. "We could trap it. Or it could trap us," Max gasped, still trying to crawl back toward her. His desperation cut like a knife through the momentary clarity Jenna felt. The shadows, emboldened by the uncertainty, began moving again, swirling and converging toward Max, who was perilously close to being enveloped. "Jenna!" he screamed, panic lacing his voice. "Don't let it take me." She was losing him, and the realization struck like a hammer against her chest. Jenna drew the box closer, searching its depths. "What do you want from me?" she cried out into the void, her voice barely carrying against the mounting chaos. The light flashed brighter and then dimmed, the face emerging again, twisted with anguish. "You have the power to bind the darkness, but it requires a sacrifice." What Jenna whispered, dread settling heavily in her bones. "What does that mean?" The laughter returned, echoing but distant now, almost playful. It was a mockery that fanned the flames of her fear, almost tangibly delighting in their turmoil. The shadows squeezed tighter around Max, slithering against his skin. "Jenna, don't listen. We can fight," David yelled, breaking through the spell that seemed to have woven itself around her. What would she have to lose? It was a question that resounded painfully in her mind. Could she truly sacrifice? In the blinding light of the box, Jenna felt as if she could glimpse the truth, the answer lingering at the edge of her consciousness. But it didn't feel like a decision, it felt like manipulation. With a surge of courage, Jenna tore her gaze from the box. The shadows whipped violently around her, mocking, pressing closer, as if sensing her hesitation. "Max!" she called out, desperation coloring her voice. "Hold on." But the shadows were too swift. In a moment of chaos, they lunged fully, swallowing him whole. Max's scream cut through the night like glass shattering, leaving only silence and despair in its wake. "No, no!" Jenna screamed, the box slipping from her fingers and dropping to the ground. The glow dimmed instantly. David's face twisted in horror as shadow manifested the dark outline of familiar features, warped and grotesque. "You wanted this," Jenna. Guilt surged through her, stronger than the shadows, more tangible than the fear. It surged deeper, pushing her onward. She brought this curse into their lives, hoping for freedom, but she had only left them trapped in a new kind of hell. And just as dread enveloped her, the box sprang back to life with a brilliant light, illuminating the entire clearing once more. But this time, the light pulsed with a terrible knowledge, a revelation that remained just out of reach. What would it cost them to wield this newfound power? Would the price be one too high to pay? Jenna knew there was no turning back now. The shadows were gathering strength, and something far worse than fear lingered. The next step was hers, and her choice would decide their fates. But the real horror lay in what she had awakened. What sacrifice awaited her? The light from the box flickered wildly, casting strange silhouettes that danced like phantoms across the clearing. Jenna felt her heart pound louder, drowning out the unearthly whispers that surrounded her. Guilt twisted inside her, knotted with fear. Max was gone. She had failed to save him. David's eyes burned with anguish, a mix of disbelief and desperation. "We have to get away from it," he shouted, backing away from the now vibrating box. The shadows that had claimed Max were not retreating. They were gathering, coalescing into something solid and predatory. "No!" Jenna cried, her voice cracking under the weight of despair. "He can't be gone." The air thickened as the shadows began to howl, a sound like moaning winds, creeping into her mind. They coiled around her, taunting and teasing, whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. She felt the cool breath of the dark brush against her cheek, mocking her sorrow. "Jenna, you have to shut up," she snapped at David, her voice laced with panic. "What if it's my fault? I brought this upon us, this isn't the time. We need to move now." But fear had rooted David in place, his gaze vacant and fixated on the pulsating light that had now taken on an ominous tone. Around them, the shadows surged as if sensing their indecision. Heavy and oppressive, they pressed against Jenna's chest, whispering promises and threats all at once. She shivered, yearning for the safety of the light. Yet, the box felt alive, pulsing with a desperation that echoed her own. What power was hidden within? Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her feet. The shadows writhed violently, distorting the world around her. "Jenna, look!" David shouted, pointing. From the box, a shadowy hand stretched outward, a grotesque, claw-like appendage that reached toward them. With primal instinct, Jenna stumbled backward. Her mind raced, torn between the urge to harness whatever power this box offered and the desire to flee from the horrors it had already wrought. "Take it," came the whisper from the box, deeper and more insidious than before. "Reveal your true self, make a choice." "No, no." Jenna shook her head, the intensity of her racing thoughts spiraling into a cyclone of terror. I can't do this." But the shadows lunged, already altering form, reshaping into a monstrous figure that towered over them. It loomed larger, now almost human but dripping with darkness. Its eyes were pits of nothingness, gleaming with malice. "You seek to bind me," it growled, its voice a low rumble that scraped against her sanity. Behind the grotesque being, Jenna could see Max's face fading in and out, twisted in agony. Pain surged through her. Desperation pushed her to the precipice of insanity. "What did you do to him?" she screamed into the darkness. "Only what you allowed." The monster smiled, baring teeth that glinted in the shadows. "You wanted power, dear Jenna. You played with forces beyond your grasp." "Stop," David cried, stepping in front of her. "We have to fight it." But Jenna was frozen, caught in a web of her own making. The vision of Max's face twisted her stomach with guilt. Would he have wanted this? To sacrifice everything? As the shadows tightened their grip, Jenna's heartbeat synced with the pulsing box, a rhythm of dread. "Sacrifice is the only way," it whispered seductively, enticingly. Just then, another scream cut through the lingering dread, echoing from deep within the box, a howl that felt familiar. It was Max. He was still there, fighting, grasping for a way out. Did he even want to be saved? Or was he lost already? The darkness shifted again, a void ready to consume them whole. Jenna looked at David, and in that shared moment, they both knew they stood on the edge. They could fight, flee, or embrace the darkness. But one thing was clear: the shadows weren't finished. They wanted something from Jenna, something deep within her. What path would she choose, and at what cost? In that moment, Jenna finally understood. The real horror was not just what lay within the shadows, but what she could become if she chose to embrace their darkness. "What choice will you make?" the shadowy figure rasped, inching closer, as the light from the box pulsed invitingly. Only one conclusion remained. What would she sacrifice to save them all? The shadows shifted once more, the grotesque figure drawing ever closer, its laughter churning in the air like acid. Jenna felt the weight of the darkness pressing down, suffocating in its embrace. She could almost hear Max's voice still echoing, pleading for freedom, imploring her to choose the right path. The figure loomed larger, waves of blackness obscuring its true form. "Jenna, we have to get out of here," David insisted, urgency ringing in his voice as he stumbled backward. The ground quaked beneath their feet, thrumming with dread. Panic buzzed in Jenna's veins like a swarm of angry bees, paralyzing her mind. The box pulsed violently, and those whispers grew louder, pleading for her to give in. "Don't listen to it," David shouted, shaking her arm. "We need to fight. We need to fight." "What?" she snapped, the desperation rising like bile in her throat. "Fight the darkness? It's already taken Max." The laughter intensified, echoing all around them. The figure tilted its head, as if amused by their disarray. "Ah yes, Max, such a delicate sacrifice. A gateway to your own desires." "Shut up," Jenna spat, fighting the urge to scream. "I didn't want any of this." "Precisely." The monster stepped closer, extending its clawed hand as the shadows slithered around it. "You summon me with your wishes. Your guilt invites me in, my dear. Accept what you've done, embrace your power." "No." Jenna's feet dug into the dirt as she recoiled. "I want tea." The howls of the shadows crescendoed, piercing her mind with an unspeakable agony. She fell to her knees, clutching her head, tears streaming down her face. The world around her spun, a kaleidoscope of torment and fear, each flash reminding her of Max's face. Jenna came a faint whisper, soft and timid. It was Max, but distorted, like a reflection in broken glass. "Help me, please, Max," she cried out, her heart cracking open. Desperation clawed at her chest. She couldn't lose him. Not like this. The shadows sank deeper into her, tangling her thoughts with longing and despair. But what if he were already gone? What if she had failed him irrevocably? "What are you willing to sacrifice, Jenna?" The monster's voice dripped honeyed malice, curling around her like a lover. "You can save him. You just have to lose a piece of yourself." "No." I won tea, but the figure shifted again, a wreath of shadows swirling around them. A thought wormed its way into her consciousness. What if saving Max came with a price? What if there was another way, one that would cost her something she was not willing to part with? "Your choice is inevitable," it hissed, the air thick with anticipation. "What will you give?" Before she could respond, David lunged forward, fists clenched. "Get away from her!" He charged the figure, but the shadows flared up, swallowing him whole. The air crackled with tension as the very essence of their surroundings seemed to scream. "David!" Jenna cried, scrambling toward him, but the darkness held her at bay. Her heart thundered in her ears, the choice tormenting her, each heartbeat a whispered reminder of her failures. "Make a decision, Jenna." David's voice was muffled, lost within the depths of shadow. Terror coursed through her as the dark figure's grip tightened. "What matters more?" It taunted, bringing forth images of their happy moments, carefree laughter, late-night talks, Max's smiling face. But within her, sympathy for the shadows grew. What if she embraced them? What if she sacrificed everything, yet was granted power beyond imagination? Jenna Max's voice drifted, a flicker of hope in the darkness. Her breath hitched. She was at an impasse, desperately wanting to save her friends but terrified of the cost. The shadows around her pulsed with an insatiable hunger, and the moment hung suspended in time. What would she decide? With a tremor in her voice, Jenna asked the question that could change everything. "What do I have to lose?" But the answer hovered somewhere in the dark, waiting to be revealed. The shadows thickened around Jenna, swirling like a storm, a tempest of darkness that breathed and writhed with a life of its own. One moment flickered before her eyes, David's panic, his desperate plea, swallowed by the abyss. It had happened so fast, and now she was alone, faced with the looming figure of despair. There was no way to measure the darkness that held her captive. "Max, I'm coming." Jenna's voice cracked, but she gripped the box tighter, feeling its pulsing energy respond to her fear. The laughter of the figure echoed like a taunt, sending waves of nausea through her. "I'll do anything." "Yes," it crooned, pleasure dripping from its words, an insidious smile spreading across its shadowed face. "Then let us begin." Before she could gather her thoughts, Jenna felt the air change. Whispers wrapped around her, slithering into her mind, like vines creeping along the ground, seeking warmth and life. They sang sweetly, promising strength, forgiveness, possibilities she'd never considered. In that moment, shadows of doubt morphed into silhouettes of hope, tugging at her desire to reclaim what had been lost. "Accept it," the figure urged, its clawed hand extending as the shadows receded slightly, inviting her to step forward. "Your friend's fate lies in your hands. Just tell me what you want to keep." "Keep?" Jenna's mind raced. Could she just take back Max? Reverse everything that had happened? "I want him back. I want all of us safe." "David, no." David's voice pierced through the shadows, now muffled but still frantic. "Jenna, don't listen. It's trying to trick you." The conflict twisted her stomach. The figure laughed softly, the sound threading through her disjointed thoughts. "Of course I'll trick her. But the choice is hers, dear boy. What will she keep? Hope? Love? Life? Or will she give it all to gain the answer?" "Don't." David started again, but a loathsome shadow sliced through the air, choking off his words. She could hear him struggling against the dark, could feel his fear and anger pouring into her. Jenna's heart raced. She shouldn't have to choose this way. I just want you both with me. But what does that even mean? Desperation clawed at her insides. Greed has its price, sweet girl. The monstrous voice slithered like silk. What if your trust in them brought ruin? What will you barter? Images of her life flashed like a slideshow turned chaotic. Each laugh they shared, every late-night secret spoken over snacks, rapidly morphed into cries, shadows looming long over the memories. The frost of despair gripped her heart, squeezing until air fled her lungs. She could almost feel Max's laughter fading into the void. Everything, she gasped. I'll give everything. Smart choice. The figure hissed, shadows pulsating with thick excitement. Now tell me what to take. I won't let you take them. A surge of defiance overwhelmed her, igniting a spark. I'll give you my dreams, my hopes. Just let them go. The laughter roared, shattering the moment. You don't understand. It's not only their lives you must separate. It is you who must be divided. One soul for theirs. Are you willing? She hesitated, each heartbeat suddenly sounding like a war cry in her ears. The air thickened, stifling her resolve and pushing her into confusion. Could she really do this? Could she sever her own soul for them to live? But the flickering shadows shifted again. Images of her fractured past spread like poison. The screams, the regrets, and most heartbreakingly, the leering emptiness that came with knowledge of her own weakness. The figure leaned closer, its face obscured but not without eyes burning like coal. What will it be, Jenna? The clock ticks, and I await your sweet surrender. Jenna's emotions collided violently. The light of hope battled against the weight of darkness and despair. Her heart thundered as thoughts spiraled wildly, the shadows dancing with impatience around her. Don't throw your life away. David's cry echoed helplessly through the darkness. And then a voice, soft yet piercing, called from within her. Make a choice. As the darkness closed in, Jenna felt suspended between worlds. The decision loomed over her like an executioner's axe. Would she let darkness take hold of her to save those she loved? Or would she find a way to challenge the shadows without losing herself? In that moment, Jenna inhaled sharply, the question hanging bitterly in the air. Will you take my soul? But the figure chuckled, the sound rich with malice. You have only begun to understand the cost what awaited her on the other side. Jenna's breath hitched in her throat, lingering heavy like smoke from a dying fire. The figure's laughter echoed in her skull, crawling beneath her skin. You crave to save them, yet you stand on the brink of your own demise, the shadow taunted. It leaned in, dark fingers brushing the edges of her consciousness with a chill that made her shudder. Please, she whispered, though the word felt hollow, soaked in her desperation. Just let them go. I'll do anything. The figure tilted its head slightly, contemplating her words. The shadows around it hissed like tormented souls. Anything? Yet you ponder so deeply over your own worth. Consider this. If I take your soul, their lives will be restored, but you will ache in the void left behind. Or perhaps, it continued mockingly sweet, you fear the truth of your desires more than the price. What are you really willing to forsake? The darkness throbbed, swirling tighter, each heartbeat matching the chaos within her chest. Jab after jab of panic tightened her throat. She could still hear David's muffled cries, feel the urgency of their reality slipping through her fingers like sand. Make your choice, Jenna. Do you value them more than yourself? The figure's voice was silky, a snake seducing its prey. A flicker of a memory burst in her mind, camping trips under stars, laughter scattering through the forest, warmth of friendship thriving against the chill. It tugged at her, the essence of who she was, who they were. A faint spark ignited within the suffocating shadow, illuminating flickers of defiance. Jenna straightened, narrowing her gaze. Their lives are worth my soul if that's what it takes. The words poured from her, a cleansing fire in the dark. The figure's laughter faded momentarily, replaced by a heavy silence as Jenna felt the shadows waver, hesitant. So brave, but folly can condense into tragedy. It warned, weaving layers of darkness around her heart. Are you prepared to suffer without them? To eternally linger as a ghost of your former self? Better a ghost with their lives than a whole person without them, she shot back defiantly. With that, Jenna could feel the chains of the shadowy figure tighten, drawing closer, and she welcomed it. She pictured Max's and David's faces, how their laughter pulled her out of darkness in the first place. "Take it," she shouted, feeling her heart pulse, racing against the clock. The figure surged forward, its hunger insatiable. Dark tendrils snaked around her body, searching for cracks to infiltrate. Jenna braced herself, fighting against the fear that caved her chest in. The air turned suffocating, filled with the stench of rotting despair. In a frenzied moment of clarity, Jenna felt an overwhelming force tear at her essence, threading through her like lightning. She screamed, not for herself, but for the connection she had made with her friends. A moment of clarity washed over her. It was always about them. "No, I will not be broken," she roared, teeth gritted against the agony threatening to consume her. The shadows recoiled, momentarily stunned, but the figure regained control, its eyes flaring with wrath. "Foolish girl, you think sacrifice reigns supreme? This is merely the beginning." Around her, the darkness roared to life, swirling chaotically as its hold grew stronger, squeezing the last vestiges of willpower from her. The whispers began again, an unsettling symphony that pierced her resolve, each note foreign and cold. "Your choice is made, but the consequences... oh, the consequences will be dire." Jenna felt herself weakening, the brightness of her connection flickering like a candle in a storm. Would her defiance cost them everything instead? The shadows pulsed, eager to subdue her will. And just as she feared falling into oblivion, David's voice sliced through the haze again, stronger this time, grounding her. "Jenna, please, fight back. Don't give up." In that moment, another decision loomed ahead amidst the chaos. Could she really forge a path back to them? Or would she slip forever into the void? As the last remnants of her strength flickered like a dying flame, the shadows lunged for her once more, and the air turned electric with the weight of the question: how could she possibly reclaim hope from such sinister despair? Would she rise from the depths, or would the twisting darkness consume her whole? Jenna gasped, the shadows tightening around her like a vice, squeezing every ounce of her spirit. But in that darkness, she caught a glimpse of a path, a shimmering flicker of hope that surged through the chaos. The whispers twisted around her, and for a moment, she could hear Max's voice breaking through the madness. "Jenna, fight. You have the power." And just like that, amid the suffocating darkness, a wellspring of determination surged through her veins. She remembered the laughter, the moments of joy, and the warmth of friendship. The memories sparked a fire in her heart, and ignited the resolve she thought was lost forever. "I won't let you take them," she screamed, the shadows recoiling, fear rippling through their dark forms. Her voice rang out, stronger than panic, transcending the haze of despair. With newfound clarity, Jenna grasped the box tighter, feeling its energy pulsate in rhythm with her racing heart. "You can't have my soul, but you will not take my friends either." The dark figure slithered closer, a grotesque smile spreading across its face. Such bravado for such a fragile being. "You think you can defy me?" "Yes," Jenna shouted defiantly. "You drew power from my fear, but I'm done being afraid." And in that moment, a radiant light burst from the box, enveloping her like a cocoon. Warmth radiated against the cold, biting tendrils of shadow, forcing them back. The laughter that had tormented them twisted into anguished cries, reverberating through the clearing. "Max! David!" she yelled, desperately searching for their faces in the oncoming light. She felt their presence, both guiding and grounding her, and she poured all her love and hope into the shimmering illumination, sending it forth like a beacon, illuminating the darkness. The figure seethed, its form writhing in discontent as the light expanded, filling every crevice of the glade. "You think you can banish me? This is only a glimpse of power," it roared, but Jenna felt it quaking under the strength of her resolve. "No, this is my choice," she declared, the words surging forth like thunder, echoing back through the trees. I choose love over fear. I choose life over despair. The shadows screamed as they contorted, flailing against the gale of light pushing through. Gradually, they began to dissolve, struggling against the strength radiating from her heart more than the box itself. As the chaos continued to unfold, a blinding flash burst forth, enveloping Jenna completely. Felt like being reborn. When the light finally faded, Jenna blinked, finding herself standing in the clearing alone amidst the wreckage of shadows, the air fragrant with pine and fresh earth. Heart pounding, she called for her friends. Max, David. Suddenly, their figures emerged from the tree-line, eyes wide in disbelief and relief. There was a moment of unspoken understanding as they rushed to her side. Jenna, you did it, Max gasped, breathless. David looked between them, disbelief painting his face. How did you defeat it? I thought it was too late. It was our memories, she blurted, desperation still bubbling just beneath the surface. Our strength. I realized they didn't want to take everything away. They wanted to feed on what we value most, our fears and regrets. Jenna felt her heart lift as she looked into their eyes, the bond of their friendship unbreakable against the shadows that had once threatened them. We're free, she breathed, relief washing over her like a welcome tide. But the echoes of dread still lingered in the back of her mind, the weight of her choices pressing firmly against her chest. But what if it comes back? She asked, the shadow of concern threatening to dampen her newfound freedom. Then we face it together, Max said firmly, clasping her shoulder. We know its tricks now. We're stronger than we were before. Yes, David nodded, determination lining his brow. We can't let fear dictate our choices any longer. We'll protect each other. The forest, once heavy and oppressive, began to feel lighter, as if the very trees were breathing in fresh air after the storm had passed. The symbols, once menacing, faded from the bark around them, leaving nothing but the beauty of untouched nature. It's time to go home, Jenna murmured, relief crashing down upon her like a gentle wave. They turned, arms linked, navigating through the thick trees with renewed strength. As they stepped out into the morning light, the sun broke across the horizon, illuminating the woods with warmth. It felt like a fresh start, a promise of hope that resonated deep within. The road ahead might be filled with uncertainties, but they would no longer walk in fear. The weight of all she had faced remained etched in her heart, a ghostly reminder of choice and sacrifice. But in that moment, hugged tightly by the warmth of friendship, Jenna knew they would carry on together, unbroken. As they walked toward the rising sun, Jenna took one last glance back at the trees that had held darkness within. A quiet vow settled in her heart: the shadows would not claim another soul. Not while she still breathed, not while they were united. Don't forget, Jenna whispered as they moved forward, stepping into the world beyond. We have each other always. In that moment, everything shifted, marking not just the end of their nightmare but the powerful new beginning they had forged through darkness, fear, and ultimately, love. If you enjoyed this story, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support and smash that like button to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your engagement keeps the stories flowing and makes a world of difference.